Hello and welcome back to the Limitless Podcast. I am so excited to be here with you today. I have a very special guest that I am like beyond thrilled to share with you because we have had some conversations behind the scene that I absolutely have fallen in love with this woman's story, what she represents, and the service that she provides for the world. So I want to introduce to you Dr. Erica Kreisman. And she actually is just a jack of all trades, just to be quite honest. So it's really hard to narrow down exactly what she does, but she's an executive coach for healthcare leaders today. But in this podcast, we're really going to explore all aspects of Erica, and she's going to share her life's journey and how she has ended up where she is and why she does what she does. But I want you to pay attention just to her heart, her passion for service, and her passion for adventure. Those are the things that have really drawn me to her. And I'm so grateful that we have been able to connect through the vehicle of LinkedIn, of all things. Erica, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be continuing this conversation with you.
Yes, me too. Me too. So I would love for you just to share, whatever personal information, just so my audience can get to know who you are and a little bit about your family, your life, and then, yeah, we'll just take it from there.
That sounds great. It's hard to start my story without starting with medical school. I guess, I could start way, way back because my parents were immigrants and I grew up in the US, and that obviously contributes to my interaction with the world, my views on the world. But we'd probably be here all day. So well, fast forward, I went to medical school and studied emergency medicine and did my training in New York. And just to put a little bit of context and time around it, I was an intern. I had been an intern, so I had been a doc for all of about 3 months um, in Lower Manhattan when September rolled around, and it
Wow.
was 9/11.
Wow.
And so that was kind of the kickoff to my emergency medicine career. And I highlight that because it was an incredible gift, certainly, to be present. You mentioned service. Service is a vital part of my life, that contribution piece, and feeling like I'm incredibly fortunate to just be able to give back to the
Wow.
world. Um, but it also was an opportunity to see a community come together, and the power of and the beauty of what happens when people show up for each other.
Wow.
And that means a lot to me, has impacted my world tremendously. It also was not an easy time to be a doc in
Mhm.
emergency
Right.
medicine. And back in the day, we weren't really having conversations about burnout. It just wasn't language that we used. You just put your head down and you get on with it. And many of us do that. I imagine many people that are listening, whether they're in medicine or not in medicine, a lot of us, that's what we do. We have kids and we run a business and we organize everyone's lives around us, and you just put your head down and you get on with it. And for a lot of us, at some point, that catches up to us, and you realize, not filling my own cup, it's awfully hard to keep pouring into everyone else's. And so I finished my training. I stayed on in emergency medicine as an attending for another 7 years. I had three little kids in pretty
Wow.
rapid succession. And at some point, I remember I used to lie there at night and I would say, what am I going to do? And then my partner would say, about what? And I would say, about everything. It was just this like weight of overwhelm. And I do have an adventurous spirit, and I am inclined to kind of say, well, what else is out there? And coming from that space of, not this,
Mm.
it just wasn't sustainable. And I found myself looking for options, looking for what was available. And um, they need doctors all over. And I had never been to Australia, and kind of through a start, is what it felt like. And after a bit of planning and a whole lot of paperwork, packed up the three little kids and my husband and myself and headed off to Tasmania for what I thought was going to be just this wild 1 year adventure.
Wow.
And 14 years later, I just
Wow.
got back.
Crazy. So did you find, I'm curious because I love how you talked about, and I didn't know that about 9/11 with you. So thank you for your service with that.
Mm.
Um, but when you're, I have a little bit of PTSD when you talk about the burnout in medicine. And I just remember being in school, and there was no rest. Right? And there were several times when I was interning when I had to be at the hospital at night to do ER work, but I had to be in clinic the next morning. One of them was I had to do surgery at 6 a.m. and then clinic the next morning. And then we had to do nursing homes. And then I did ER at night. So it was that constant, you never really got any rest. And I mean, you can't, I mean, I caught myself not being able to think straight. So do you feel like did you get a little bit of reprieve from that in Tasmania, or is it pretty much the same type of thing?
I got a lot of reprieve. I really, in a couple ways. I mean, certainly commuting in Brooklyn, it was like in Tassie, you're on this little island
Hmm.
and everything is like, it's 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes here, it's 10 minutes there. And I laughed. I said, I feel like I got hours of my day back, just not
Wow.
sitting in traffic anymore. It was, but I would still bring that frenetic energy with me everywhere. Like I'd
Hmm.
be sitting in the car and I would be like, why are they going so slowly? And then I would laugh. I'd catch myself and like, Erica, you've got nowhere to be. Like,
Right.
what, what's your rush? But we just bring that with us. Like it becomes part of the way that we're wired.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it really, I think it took me almost, I felt like it was a solid 8 months into that time away before I was even able to like slow down,
Mm.
catch your breath and be present. But life over there and medicine over there is very different. I'd be working in the emergency department, kind of on my New York pace, trying to plow through people. And the nurse would come over and she'd say, have you had your tea break? I'm like, my what? Like, and they would send me off to the tea room to have a cup of tea. And it was so humane. Like
So
it
beautiful.
was very, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what did Tasmania teach you?
Oh, I learned a lot in Tasmania. Um, Tasmania taught me the power of being present.
Mhm. I love that.
Yeah. It's such a gift, to have capacity in your world to be to be present in the moment with whatever you're doing. And I remember reading somewhere how if you're washing the dishes but thinking about the peach you want to eat, when you go to eat the peach you're thinking about the next thing, you're not living. And somewhere in that, we miss our whole lives in those moments of not being present.
Yeah, we miss the miracles. We miss the miracles that are actually available for us, right? But I think medicine, and I'm not just speaking just about medicine, but just because we have that in common, medicine is it teaches us chaos, like constantly being in emergency medicine for sure. And so we become accustomed to that chaos. And just like you said, when you were in Tasmania in the beginning, you were still expecting that chaos. So your nervous system was like, where is it? Where is the chaos? And
Yeah.
yeah, it's very different to just be because we're constantly taught to do.
It's a skill that many of us don't realize. We don't understand that it's a skill that we need to work on and train the same way that we work on and train all of our other skills.
Mhm, for sure. Yeah. I learned that skill when we moved from a city to 20 acres. And it was really difficult at first. the first time I meditated, it was 3 minutes and it was completely miserable. Like, when is it over? Because my mind was just going nonstop. But learning to be present, yeah, it is such a skill. But when it's a default, it's easy to default back into that chaos as well. So what else did
I love that
Tasmania?
you say that. I love
Yeah,
that. Sorry, I love that you say that about meditation, because it is. And then for many of us, you kind of feel like, why can't I get this right? Right? Um,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But that word meditation kept coming into my life time and time again. So I knew that I was supposed to practice that skill. And yeah, I've learned the skill. And one of the things that I teach is if you're going crazy for 3 minutes, it's okay. It's not always going to be like that, but you're training your body calmness. You're training yourself to be in your body, because most of the time, like you said, we're not. We're on to the next thing. We're living in the future, or we're bringing up the past. So yeah, it is. It's very interesting. And it's so cool too, because I don't know if you felt it, but the minute you said, "I learned to be present," I just felt this
Mhm.
different calmness come on to our energy together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's so beautiful. So thank you for bringing that up. So what else
Yeah.
did Tasmania teach you?
Oh, um, Tasmania taught me about connecting with nature,
Mhm.
which is vital for me. And I didn't really appreciate how much that was missing from my world in Brooklyn.
Mm,
Go figure.
mhm.
Um, but even there, it's present when we look for it. It's available to us, but in Tassie, you are immersed in it. There is a real connection with land and history. Part of that is in the culture, but part of it is just the nature of being on this rugged, wild, beautiful island. And part of what I was doing was helping to build up the pre-hospital service. And so I started flying on the helicopter as the doc part of a team. And I had never been on a helicopter before, and turns out I don't really like to fly. And but it is a beautiful way to see like an island like that.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
it
wow.
really it helps with that sense of awe. There's a lot to be said for, I think, clarity around perspective. Emergency medicine is very good for giving you perspective.
Mhm.
But also just there's something about being a part of something so vast and so big and so beautiful that I've taken with me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So cool. Yeah, it really taught you a lot, didn't it? Yeah.
It did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a different terrain from where you came from. So it
Yes.
sounds like, yeah, it was intentional that you needed to be there. So I'm curious, your how did you transition from what you've been doing the most of your life to where you are now? What brought you to that transition? Most of the time there's always a learning from our past that brought us to our future.
I think when people have this conception of emergency medicine, or they imagine what it's like, whether it's from various shows, and it's true, a lot of that is true, right? There's a pace and an intensity, and um, I suppose a bit of adrenaline that comes with it, with the domain. Um, but for me, what I always loved about emergency medicine more than anything else was the capacity to connect with people.
Mm,
And I always felt that when people come into the emergency department, they truly are at their most vulnerable. And it's in those moments of vulnerability where we can really forge quick connection. And that's where healing happens.
mm,
And I believe that with all that I am. And that has always been the most powerful part. I loved for sure the resuscitations, and, I will own it. I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie. I've got that going for me. Um, but that connection piece is incredibly powerful. And after a while, the adrenaline wears off, and what stays is the capacity to make a difference when you can
Mhm.
connect with someone and be present, be with them.
I love this so much because it's such a different perspective. One of the things that I did not love about emergency medicine is I didn't feel like I had that connection and specifically that long term connection. But to hear what you are saying, you have such a gift of um, using your thought process. I mean, because you got to be quick, right? You got to be thinking through things, but also tapping into your heart at the same time, which is,
Absolutely.
yeah, such a beautiful skill. And I know there's many times when I've been at the emergency room, either with a child, with, spouse, whatever, and there aren't very many people that have the heart in the head.
It's not easy, right? It's
Right.
easy to
Yeah.
get
So
caught in the swirl.
right. Yeah. Yeah. So beautifully said. I mean, yeah, in your most vulnerable position is when you can connect. Yeah.
Yeah. And so once I understood that, which I didn't right away, I went into emergency medicine without that deep, real understanding of what was drawing me. And it took me years and years to figure out, when I had a great shift, what made it great? What did I love about the day? And as I became more senior in my leadership roles and I became the director of an emergency department and then an executive medical director, I spent more time connecting with my team and being in those positions of development, and less time at the bedside, but I was able to really still get that same satisfaction from those connections, from the development piece, from being present with whoever I was with, whether it was a patient or whether it was, a teammate, and um, and like supporting and seeing them, holding that space for them while they were on whatever the journey was.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. And what brought you into being a coach? How did that transpire?
Probably just like that, right? So bedside, that connection piece, and then developing, realizing that, oh, I get that same that same thrill from working, sitting down and having a great conversation with one of my teammates, one of the juniors, one of the docs, one of someone, anyone, and spending an hour with them and giving them the tools and the skills to work through and come up with solutions, increasing people's capacity.
Mhm.
And so realizing like I'm inclined to dig a little deeper and go down rabbit holes. And so I start peeling the layers back, and reading um, and then I did a formal coach training. And part of it was, oh, this will be great leadership development. And then I went down that route and I thought, oh, I love this stuff. I really love this. And then bit by bit, word of mouth, and I start coaching. Occasionally I would coach people outside of healthcare, and I realized, oh, look at this. Like, we all have the same challenges. Like, welcome to the human condition,
Right.
right?
Right.
We all have that shame piece. We all carry these stories that keep us small. We all have that second guessing, imposter syndrome, vulnerability, negative self talk. Like, that's it. We've all
Yes.
got it.
We've all got it. And from my perspective, we it's inherent. Like we brought it with us into this world and it comes from generations. So, generation upon and Harvard has even done a study that 7 generations of DNA they have seen have been passed down. Now, I'm sure that they could go, deeper into that, but we are all born into lack, limitation, insecurity, and inadequacy. And it is our job to work through that so we can become fully advanced as our soul, like what our soul's purpose is. And you can't do that when you're coming from that place of lack, limitation, inadequacy, and insecurity.
And you can't do it until you're aware of it,
Right.
you know? Until you stop judging so brutally, because our self-talk is horrendous. We really would never talk to another human the way many of us speak to ourselves.
Right.
And when we're able to just park that judgment, extend a little bit of grace, and hold ourselves gently, a little bit of grace and a lot of curiosity, that's where the magic happens. That's where you really start being able to undo so many of those layers and those generations and those stories that we all carry.
Right. Yeah. So I think this has actually become, more and more people are becoming intrigued with their beliefs and recognizing that the old paradigm of, you know, affirmations, mindset, and then you'll be able to do more. That doesn't work. So more and more people are becoming wanting to become more and more aware of their thoughts. Is there any certain thing that you would say to teach someone to become more aware of their thoughts?
Well, you and I have touched on a little bit, right? We've talked about meditation, and certainly there are practices that people can explore to become more present, all of which I think or at least many of which I think have value, none of which are quick and easy. And I
Right.
think that's part of the challenge is, in this day and age, a lot of us just kind of like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Hurry up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Right? There's no quick and easy here. Um, I have a framework that I work with, which goes back to this idea, this concept of extending grace, because I do believe that there's so much in there for us, and it's founded around, kind of can take those letters, and I think we start with curiosity. So you
Hmm.
start with getting curious, and I believe that you cannot be both curious and judgmental at the same time. And when we're able to park our judgment and really lean into the curiosity, it gives us permission that we need to explore. So that's the foundation for a lot of this work.
Hmm.
And then building on that, um, you need to be honest.
Hmm.
So that when I talk about that, the framework, and I go to R, that's radical candor. And I think you and I have spoken before about also radical responsibility.
Yeah. Radical
So,
responsibility. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of like, you got to be honest, and you also need to take radical responsibility for what's within your control and what are you prepared to do about it.
Yeah. It's so true. And I don't recall if I shared with you my story, but in my marriage, we've been married 33 years, and there was a point in my marriage. I've done all of this work on healing different relationships in my life. And our marriage was good. It wasn't awesome. But there was a point where I'm like, okay, I have one foot in, one foot out. And I need to make a decision if I'm actually going to do the work, same work here that I've done in other places. Um, and that requires putting both feet in. But what helped me make the decision is, you know what, regardless of if this relationship works, and clearly, wanted it to work, and I always recommend. I'm not opposed if a marriage isn't working. I mean, and he's not doing the work, then you got to make some decisions here. But I needed to do the work on me, and that's the radical responsibility, because a lot of times we blame our circumstances, our situations on other people, other things, etc. And that's the radical responsibility. Like, I need to take responsibility for my own healing, right?
Correct. And
Yeah.
that's beautiful, because that is also the only thing that you can control, right?
Yep.
It is, we like to point fingers and say, but he should, and they should, and I want. But the truth is that we have no control over any of that. All
Hmm.
you can control is your piece in it.
That's right. Yeah. And what ended up happening is it healed our marriage. And, one of the greatest compliments my husband gave me is, what you have done is inspirational, makes me want to do the work. And we're talking about a man who took the same book for 33 years to every vacation. So he would never read it. And yeah. And so, he does the work, but this work is transformational. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what are
It's
you
not
noticing?
easy.
Yeah, it's not easy. It is not easy. But it gets to a point though where you kind of go, hmm, what's this about? And I wonder what's on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You start to see the growth that happens within, and you're curious about, okay, let's dive into this one
Mhm.
and we'll see what's on the other side of that.
That's life changing.
Yes. Yeah. Beautiful. So you're helping a lot of leaders, not just in healthcare, but just a lot of people working through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is my jam. I love that. I love it.
So do you think you'll stay in healthcare as well?
Uh, that is a great question.
Yeah.
It is an integral part of who I have been and the way that I see myself. I'm
Mhm.
sure you can relate to this, right?
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
it just becomes an embedded part of your persona. And I'm on that cusp of like, oh, I'm not quite ready to like walk
Yeah.
away from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where this adventure takes me and where to next.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited for you. One of the things that I have loved about us talking and sharing with each other is just your sense of adventure. Like you have, we were talking about where you live now and what your plan is. And I know you plan to move on to another state another place for an adventure. And it just got me thinking, gosh, why do I stay so planted in one area? And I would love for you just to share a little bit more, like what is it in you that's like, okay, what's next, or what drives you to that next place? Because I think there are a lot of people that are listening that are a lot like me, like you stay planted. But you are not just seeking out and looking for an adventure and the way that you can serve others, but you're doing some amazing things for your kids as well. Like they get lots and lots of experiences.
They do. And I am a very big believer that growth happens in that space of discomfort. And so it's
Yes.
not easy. It's not, none of the stuff that we're talking about is easy. In some ways, it's almost like we're just different manifestations of something that's very similar. And it's that feeling of discomfort. And every single one of us has an immediate inclination to be like, ooh, and you want to turn away from it. And also, we can teach ourselves that, hang on a minute, oh, yeah, that's where growth lives. And
Mhm.
instead of this reaction, you learn to kind of turn towards it and lean in.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
that's how I have committed to living to myself. And I want to model that for my children because I want them to understand that it is a big, beautiful world.
Mhm.
And the limitations that they carry are the limitations that they set. And if they don't
Yes.
like them, then they're theirs to change.
Yeah. So beautiful. Yeah. But the experiences that they get too, Tasmania, I can't even imagine the experiences that they got there. And then wherever you're going to land on this next adventure that you're not sure of. So, yeah, they're learning so much just through witnessing you, which is so beautiful, and teaching them that their only limitation is what they're believing their limitation is. Um, I didn't have that knowledge when I had my children, but I do have that knowledge with my grandkids. And so they're definitely learning. And so are my kids. My kids are like, "Who are you, mom?" Like,
But it's never too late, right?
No.
Like this is, we can make the little changes and learn to step out of that zone of discomfort. And it looks different for everyone, right?
Hmm.
Because what's uncomfortable for me or unusual for me or adventurous for me is not going to be the same as what's adventurous for you or somebody listening. It's liberating when we realize like, oh, you do you, right? We're all running our own race here.
Right. Exactly. So I would love for you to share any tips um, that you think would be helpful to the listeners. And I'm thinking about, you've made some shifts, some major shifts in your life, and a lot of times people are afraid to make that jump. I've made several jumps myself. And what kind of advice would you give a, a woman, even a man, who's considering, gosh, I've got this tug, this pull on my heart, but I'm scared. How do I make that jump?
I don't want anyone to walk away thinking like, oh, she's got so much courage. I wish I could do that and never feel fear and do the thing.
Right.
Because I do feel fear. I feel a lot of fear. I feel a lot of fear. And courage is not doing something in the absence of fear. Courage is when you feel the fear and do the thing.
Hmm.
And that's what I want people to understand. Like, it's okay to feel the fear.
Hmm.
Feel all the things, feel them all. And you can still move forwards. Don't be impulsive. Don't be reckless. Make good choices. Be kind and courageous.
Hmm.
But, emergency medicine is good for a lot of things, but emergency medicine is particularly good at giving you a daily lesson of life is a gift. Every day is a gift.
Right.
So go live well.
Mm, so beautiful. So the fear, I'd love to talk about that, because what is the fear that we have when we make that transition from one thing to another, or what keeps us from making that transition from one thing to another? The fear that we experience that keeps a lot of people from stepping into their dreams, that's the limited story that needs to be dealt with.
I mean, I'm sure have seen this play out
Yeah.
around you so many times.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I've experienced it myself. And so the number one fear is unknown. Like what is going to happen, or what won't happen, or is this going to work, or all of those things. It's the worry that happens of the future. And actually it's just an illusion of what we're imagining in our imagination that could possibly happen. And so we feel the fear right here, right now, today.
Mhm. Yeah, and the vast majority of the time, those things don't happen,
They don't
right?
happen.
So we spend so much time and so much energy living these horrible alternate realities,
Hmm.
none of which ever happen.
Right.
So I started saying to myself, like I'd catch myself doing it, and I would say, "Don't worry about hypothetical problems. Don't worry about hypothetical problems." It kind of like became a bit of a refrain for me,
Hmm.
and you just kind of catch yourself and you remind yourself like, is this an actual problem right now? And the answer is
No.
95 or
Yeah.
99% of the time, no, it's not.
Hmm. It's imaginary. It's an
Yeah,
imaginary issue. And so if you really look at that, you can go, oh my gosh, I'm spending all my time worrying about something that's imaginary. It's not even real. So yeah, that is the limiting belief that you have to work through when you're in that fear, and you won't necessarily make the jump. So it's yeah, it's such a fascinating world, is it not?
it
And
is.
yeah, by making that transition and feeling that fear and working through that, yeah, you evolve and you grow, and it gives you more courage to make the next one.
That's right. That's how you learn that you can.
Right. Yeah. Kudos to you. Amazing.
Hmm,
Yeah.
thank you.
any last words of encouragement, anything you want to share that we haven't covered that?
Gosh, this went so fast. I really enjoyed it. Thank you. Um, I'd leave it with that notion of feel the fear, do the thing.
Yeah, do the thing. Yeah,
Mm,
no regrets, right? Live life.
that's
Live
right.
life. Yeah, so
Mm,
beautiful. Thank you, Erica, for joining me. Such an amazing human. You're just a beautiful soul. And I know I've told you that several times as we have talked before this podcast, but you are just a beautiful soul, a force
thank
to be
you.
reckoned. Yes. And I can't wait to see what your next adventure is and the lives that you're going to change. Yeah, head and heart, you have them both. And that is, you're connected for sure. So,
Thank you so much. I
yeah,
really enjoyed this.
yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And man, put this podcast on replay. This episode is so dynamic. She is such an amazing person. How can we get people to know you through social? So, what socials are you?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
That's it.
Awesome.
Well, I have a very, very, very little presence on Instagram, but LinkedIn is really, and I would love for people to connect with me and message me and tell me that you're out there and tell me what you're doing and tell me what inspires you and all the things. So
Yes. Yeah.
absolutely, I'd love that. And I also have my One Wild coaching, and I'd always love to hear people and connect with people that way too.
Okay, beautiful. You guys, I would highly recommend as this community, we are a community of encouragers. So reach out to Erica and let her know how much you enjoyed this podcast. It would fill my heart to hear that you did that, and it would also encourage her as well. So thank you for joining us, and I will see you next week. God bless. Hey, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Limitless Podcast. If you loved it, and I know you did, make sure to like and subscribe and share it with others. Help us get the message out. See you next week.